Welcome to Nothing Without Us, stories and discussions of meaningful inclusion. We'll talk about accessibility, meaningful inclusion, and disability justice with stories, discussions, policy updates, and commentary on the value of being accessible and inclusive. We believe that life should be accessible for everyone, and everyone should be included in all aspects of life. I am your host, Annette Bourbonniere. I am a 70-ish-year-old woman with short gray hair and eyeglasses, and I'm sitting in a power wheelchair, and my service dog Kirby could show himself at some point during the podcast, and this podcast is captioned. Please share and like this podcast so we can grow. You are also welcome to make comments in the chat. I read them all and give us feedback about what you do or do not like. I'm talking about a couple of issues today. One has to do with ending the Crip the Vote subseries for 2024, and the other has to do with the closing of National Disability Employment Awareness Month and how these two topics really managed to work together in a way I hadn't really foreseen. So we recorded the final episode of the Crip the Vote subseries today. It is posted already. And I sincerely appreciate the office holders and candidates who, on the federal, state, and local levels who were willing to participate in these discussions of disability issues. They are in a position to help resolve many policy issues that affect us. And those who participated demonstrated a willingness to learn about how these issues affect us and to use their elected positions to help us create change that we really need to see, and change that will make it easier for us to live full, independent, and active lives. Thank you so much for doing this. For those of us with disabilities, as well as for every American citizen, our democracy depends now more than ever that we go out and vote. I am proud to say that I have already voted. This is our power, our right, and our responsibility. We cannot complain about the results if we don't preserve this right and exercise it. And let's make sure we do preserve it. And I think that's an important issue in this particular election. This is also the end of Disability Employment Awareness Month, and this for the year. And while we normally think of the Americans with Disabilities Act as the answer to employment issues, and it is geared to remove discrimination and remove obstacles to employment, and it is. The subseries, though, on the Crip the Vote really brought into focus some of the policy barriers that we also face. Some of these policy barriers are huge. Some of them have been the subject of some of my research in the past few years, and I do think that we need to pay attention, and I am grateful for those on both the state and federal levels who are in a position to address some of these policy barriers and their willingness to actually listen and do that. The technology we have today is just amazing. It allows most individuals with disabilities to lead more independent lives, to function on a level that was never possible before. For many of us, technology makes it possible for us to work, be independent and productive and active, and they just have the complete package of life. And yes, this technology does empower us, at least at some level. So the problem is that we still have disability employment policies that are stuck somewhere in the 1950s when they were first established. And that just really, cramps the whole works. For many of us, this leaves us with huge barriers to employment And very few people understand that much of this barrier rests on the idea that we are broken and incapable of working, or that we are cheating the system, neither of which are true. So, part of my work has been to doing research in this area, and I have encountered some astounding attitudes, even from reasonably intelligent, at least in other areas, people. These include the need to stick with the medical model of disability that says that we are broken and need to be fixed. And the expectation is we're not going to work until we are fixed. The people with these attitudes work on disability one diagnosis at a time. So what that means is they look for big numbers. Okay, we can get these people working and give them the supports they need, etc., and leaving the rest of us behind. And this is a problem. It creates another class of disability, and it should not be. I have heard policymakers from the Social Security Administration, from Ticket to Work, talk about how the Ticket to Work program is only for people who are work ready, in response to questions about, well, what happens to our disability related expenses after we're no longer eligible for Medicare? We know that on the state level we're eligible for Medicaid until we reach this mystical and mythical, really, poverty level, which was never intended to be a target. It was supposed to be a measure for research, using it as a target and penalizing people that earn beyond that. It's an arbitrary level, is really, a stressor that nobody else in the United States has to deal with. Somebody who wants to go out and work, gets the education, builds up the skills, should be able to work and earn what their skills say they are capable of doing. Their talent, their education, their skills. Not so with people with disabilities. For us, we can work, but if we earn over some level that's tied to that mythical poverty level, the assumption is, oops, we no longer have disability or disability-related expenses, and the rug gets pulled out from under us. And for some people, it has happened that they have earned $100 over this, level that has been set by state policymakers, and they have lost Medicaid benefits that would, that were impossible for them to, pay out of pocket. So the cost of disability can be far greater than what our earnings are, and we need to realize this. For states to also, they're very narrow-minded when they think about this, and Rhode Island is really good at being narrow on this issue. The reality is, if we're not working, if we have had to give up our jobs because of the risk of taking, well, first of all, we have that stress all the time, that they're watching and they're waiting for that opportunity to take away our benefits. That is a reality, that is a stressor that nobody else in this country has to live with. Imagine that. We're always, nope, I can't take that promotion. No, please don't give me a raise. I will be homeless if you give me a raise. This is not a stress that people should be living with. We should be able to go out and earn a living without that worry. So, we have to, really have this in mind the whole time when we're working. So why I say the states are very narrow is, if we do not work, if we do have to give up our jobs, if we stay in that mythical limit that they have decided that we need to stay in, they have to pay Medicaid, and they have to pay all our disability-related costs. So if we work, I don't know, this seems kind of like nonsensical to me, But if we're working and they're paying those benefits, we're also paying taxes, which helps pay for those benefits for us and for others. We are buying goods and services, also contributing to the economy. The people we're buying goods and services from are paying taxes. So it seems to me that there should not be limits. If we are deemed eligible for disability benefits, that we have a significant enough disability, then we should be able to say, okay, this is what we need, let us live our lives. The idea that we might be cheating the system, you have to understand, first of all, that you're talking about a bunch of very low income people because we have never been allowed to earn a reasonable living. Really think that that's something we want? Do you think that's something we're cheating to get? This is not an achievement. So the other thing is, and I think we really need to be realistic about this, there are more people cheating on their income taxes than there are people with disabilities cheating the system. I'm not saying nobody ever does, but I'm willing to bet that most who do, it's a survival. It's a survival game for them. So, states, kind of wake up on this, please. Some of the legislators I met with and talked with over the past few weeks were in agreement about this. We want to be employed, so let's make it happen. Let's not put our own survival in jeopardy because we want to earn a decent living, because that is a stress that nobody needs. So this month has been full of interesting discussions, discussing employment and policy with those who could be in a position to create the needed change. Let's hope it works. Okay, so thank you for listening. I'm Annette Bourbonniere from Nothing Without Us, Stories and Discussions of Meaningful Inclusion. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like us, click on that heart and tell your friends about us. The more people we have, the better it's going to be. We'll be able to attract more speakers and talk on more topics. So that and your comments will help us grow. Tell us who you want to hear from and what issues you want to hear about. Tell your friends they can find us on patreon.com and on YouTube, and you can follow me also on LinkedIn and Instagram and Threads. Now, paid members on Patreon will be receiving some early postings and other benefits available only to them. So, until the next Nothing Without Us, this is Annette Bourbonniere.